This is Dark Waters. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Eric Blanco. Well, it's a couple of years back. I got into this kind of like this biblical, kind of like I don't know, like it was a confusing time in my thought. I didn't know if I believed it or not. I was going through some things at the time, and I kept going into just researching like the Bible, just going into like the stories, seeing if I could get actual accounts, different languages, something that I could connect
Word.
to the to so and I did get to the point of his real name. I got to the point of learning things that I didn't know before I stepped into it, but for some reason it led me into the Dogman phenomena, which is to me, I didn't expect it to be kind of that sense. I removed myself from religion to study it. I told myself, you know what, I'm gonna give it all my effort. I'm not gonna say that I could just I'm gonna read the Bible from end to end and it's gonna mean anything. I wanted to actually like find out what passages meant something for whatever reason. It was something that I needed in my life.
Word.
And this when I started getting into the Dogman thing, at the time I wasn't necessarily going to church. I wasn't necessarily like how you say arming myself to protect myself from those things.
Uh huh.
And so when I started getting into the Dogman thing, I mean I went deep. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen read a book called the Encyclopedia of Shapeshifters and Werewolves.
Nope.
Uh, it's a great book. I mean, I read it a couple years back when I was a teen, and this is accounts and stories of werewolves in Guatemala, in Salvador, things that you're thinking that may not exist in your area, but and it was just it almost like I've heard a story like that it obsessed me to learn everything about this dumb topic. And the reason why I feel like I wanted to call in and tell my story is because like 3 years back, I was living in San Fernando Valley in California, and from this point, I am working as a security guard at night. I'm listening nothing to Dogman stories, drawing, and I can draw, so I can vividly I even draw the accounts of people's stories, and like I try to make like a sketch of what they saw.
Okay.
And I got to that point, like I have a lot of pictures, and when I realized that was happening, I started kind of like, I don't know, fearing my home at the time. I was renting a house, and I had a garage. That's where I would go and chill and just sit and draw or do what I needed to do. My kids would be inside the house, so I don't know. It was my space, And one day I had three people over. It was my ex-mother-in-law. She was staying with me at the time because we had a bit of a friendship at the time. So I invited her to stay over because the kids break, the summer break. So she was taking care of my kids, and the girl that I was chilling at the time with, we were living at the house, we were holding it down like a family. And she saw it first. She looks to the corner of there's two entrances to this garage. It's like they had remodeled it into like a room, and one of the entrances pointed towards the front of the house, and the other entrance pointed to like a side, so you can access the back. And we saw it on the back door. We would leave that door open because in California it's nice all the time. It's rare when you see some form of like bad weather, so you've got the door open most of the time. And she saw in her description was a standing coyote, is what she said. And I'm like, and I'm looking at it, and I see this. I see a standing gray, no, brown wolf, and the eyes look like candy canes, like it's switching from red to white, and that's what I'm seeing. But it's not in the physical. It was more like I could see through it. I could see the door behind it, but I could still see it. It was standing on the threshold. This mother-in-law, ex-mother-in-law of mine, she had put salt on all of the door entrances.
Mm-hmm.
Like she just put salt to like cover. And I know that biblically it says that a ring of salt will hold a demon. So like if it's in the Bible, in my head I was thinking, like she did something proper. She protected us, and this thing was not coming inside, but you could tell it was standing right at the threshold. And yeah, if you obsess over this topic, I feel like you invoke something that's kind of like waiting for that person, more like baiting them. Because if anybody would have gone out, I think that we would have been in some form of danger.
So I'll tell you what you experience, and I've said this and I've disclosed this. There is definitely a very, very negative spirit that gets worshipped from this topic. When people obsess over it, and the more you obsess over it, especially people who were in a situation like where you were, where you don't realize what you said. So you said, I was studying the Bible and reading the Bible, and I stopped in order to study Dogman, right? So you literally made a spiritual choice to put the topic in it's like you stopped worshiping God to worship this Dogman entity. So when you first said that, I already knew where this was going. And so that's what led to that encounter. There is a very, very strong spiritual element to this and spiritual aspect to it. For example, if I don't have those photos because I don't have the phone, but if we were to take a look at Blue's pictures out of Florida, not the pictures that were public, but the private ones, which I have permission to share now, you will see Bigfoots in one photo. You will see what looks like a dog man in a photo, and then you will see this spiritual entity clearly there in the photo, to the point to where it freaked both of us out. And it shows that there are spirits that are associated with these things. If you go back and you just think about from a biblical standpoint, and you think about the concept of fallen angels falling and corrupting the spirits, and corrupting all the flesh on the planet, and making these abominations that were soulless abominations, but still had spirits, then you kind of can see where there may have been, or you can not see, you can make the leap, or that's not even the word I'm looking for. I don't know why I'm stumbling for words, but you can make the leap of faith that, okay, well, maybe there was this one walking wolf back then that was like the alpha of everything, and when it was murdered or when it died, its spirit moved forward. And unless you're strong enough, unless you protect yourself, you will encounter that. So I'm just glad you let it go. You have let it go, right? Like you ain't like freaking out.
See,
Because a few minutes ago you said you was drawing and scribbling. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's why I'm calling, because that's the warning that I'm trying to give. Because now I definitely have put myself in another level of spiritual, just awakening. I made sure that I let go of my anger. I let go of a lot of frustrations that I had. I got a diagnosis of health problems not too long ago, and I came out of it, I guess sane, and I think because again I've learned Yeshua to me is, I know who I believe in. I know what I've seen. I have been, inside of the church, as you say. It's really not just a seat warmer, but someone that, wanted to wake up in the morning and pray and read, the Bible as much as I could. As much as I know, I've forgotten a lot of it, but as much as I remember, it stayed with me, and I know that in the times when it was dark and I didn't have anyone to guide me, I spoke to my inner self, and I spoke to God, and I.
Hey, this is Dark Waters. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Carrie, and I'm calling from Miami, Florida.
From Miami, Florida. What's happening in Miami, my man?
Nothing much. Just enjoying the show. Just enjoying the live stream. I just wanted to call and say the thing that actually got me watching your show was an experience that I had a while back. I live in Miami Gardens. This is like an urban area,
Okay.
and I'm not gonna lie, you have a lot of different cultures here. It's a lot of religions down here.
Oh yeah, y'all wild with it down there, bro. Y'all got all kind of stuff down
Yeah, you got a lot of voodoo and Santeria and stuff like that going on down here, and you can definitely sense and feel a lot of those spirits whenever they come about.
there. You mess with the wrong woman, huh?
No, fortunately, no. No, I didn't have any interactions like that.
All right.
But it was one night. Hold on, give me 1 minute. Let me pass my son over to my wife.
It's all good. Take your time. It's a little bitty baby you got right there.
Yeah, man, 2 months old.
Congratulations. Perfectly healthy,
Thank
no
you.
problems.
Yes, sir. Beautiful baby boy.
Good. That's a blessing, man. That's a blessing.
But so it's one night I'm outside. Now, the area that I lived in, we were renting out a duplex, and it was right next to where my grandmother's house was. Now, my grandfather is a pastor, so they've always kept that religious aspect over their property. And whenever you step onto their property, you can feel that it's, I guess, lived on by holy people.
Right.
You can definitely feel the presence in comparison to everything else. But the house that I lived in didn't necessarily feel that same aspect. Now, I would go outside and smoke on my porch, on my side porch. And this was like, now that I think about it, yeah, this was like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I go outside to smoke, and inside of my grandparents' backyard, there's a very large tree. It's like 2 stories, 3 stories tall.
Okay.
And I'm hearing something inside of the tree. Now, I'm not necessarily paying it any much attention. I know we have raccoons and possums and stuff like that, so I'm thinking maybe it's one of them running the power line or something. So, in my grandparents' yard, there's 2 trees. Now, this tree was in the far back left. There's a tree in the right, and then right next to that tree is where the fence is that separated my grandparents' yard from the yard that we lived at. And there was a tree there. So in my backyard, there was 2 trees as well. There was one to the far left and one in the middle. So there's a total of 4 trees in a row. And I'm outside smoking, and I hear something inside the far left tree scurrying around. And I hear branches moving. Now, this is up in the tree. This isn't low down. And as I'm hearing the branches move, I'm like, what is that? I don't see anything. I see the branches moving, but I don't physically see anything. So whatever it is, it jumps from that tree to the second tree in my grandparents' backyard. I don't see it jump, but I hear it jump from the tree. I hear the branches breaking. Now, at this point in time, I didn't really have that much smoke left. So the little bit of smoke I did have, I wanted to enjoy it. But I'm hearing what I'm hearing, so like I'm conflicted on finishing my smoke or running inside the house.
Right, right.
So it jumps from that far right tree in my grandparents' backyard to the far left tree in my yard.
Oh
So
hell
now I'm
no.
like, okay, what the? I hear it jump from that tree to the middle tree in my yard. So now I throw down my joint and I'm getting ready to run inside the house. And whatever it is, I hear it jump from the tree onto the ground. Like you can hear the, and then all you hear is dum 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 running towards me. Like you hear the grass moving. I don't see what this is because it's dark. I just hear this, and when I hear it, I just run inside the house. Now, at the time my mom was there, she was asleep, and I ran inside the house so fast, and I closed the door so hard, she woke up, and she came into the living room. She was like, "What's going on?" And I'm there with my ear to the door with it closed, listening to see if this thing was going to proceed and come towards the door. It never did. I never heard it retreat. I literally just stayed right there the whole night. My mom's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know. Something chased me into the house." And she's like, "Something chased you into the house?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "Is it still there?" I'm like, "I don't know." So me and her just there. She eventually passes it off as like, maybe he just heard something or maybe he thought it was something else. But the whole night I stood up waiting to see if it would leave. I never heard it leave. The sun came up. I looked out the window. I never saw anything, but something did chase me. And
Now,
because of that, no, I was going to say because of that, it made me go out and start looking for like creatures and stuff like that. And I ended up running into your Dogman story when you went out to Taylor.
yeah, when I was being a full retard. Like people get upset when I use the word full retard, but they don't realize I was the first person to go full retard. Like they don't get it. Like I can say it because I did it. You know what I'm saying? Like I went absolute full retard, and I paid the price for it. Let me ask you this though. So it jumps from tree to tree, lands on the ground. You didn't see any eyes shine. You didn't see anything.
No. And if I
That's
would give
messed
a
up.
description, it seemed like it probably was the size of maybe a 6 to 8 year old child. Like it
Really?
was bigger than an animal for sure, but like it wasn't full grown human size. Whatever this thing was,
And how
it
did you
damn
get to come
sure.
to that conclusion? Because you said you didn't see nothing, but how you came to that conclusion? Was it based on the sound of it hitting the ground? Was it
Yes,
based on how it was in the trees?
the sound of the trees, the fact of like those trees were they were pretty big, but those branches wouldn't support me. If I was in those trees, those branches probably would have broke. So I'm assuming it would have been something like smaller than a full adult size
Let me
for the
ask you something
branches to
about your
not
family
break.
members over there. So your family members, were they people who were heavy in the spiritual warfare? Because you never know. It could have been they got beef. They had beef with somebody that was in a Santeria or into voodoo. Because some of those people are very, very powerful. Did they have any issues with anybody?
From my understanding, no.
Okay,
I
okay,
can
good.
I couldn't say that they did. They never really discussed their business with their grandchildren like that. Like they'd probably explain it to my mom or something, but they wouldn't tell it to me.
What about your mom's reaction? She believed you? Was she kind of like confused, or did it? Because it sounds like she wasn't surprised.
Well, my mom has had spiritual encounters before. Um,
Okay.
she's told me things that has happened to her, things that she's seen at a younger age, and I never really believed her to the extent of like I would hear the story and I'd be like, oh, well, I didn't see it, and you don't necessarily seem to be too shaken up about it. Like you seem like it's bothering you, but you seem all right enough to function. So maybe it wasn't that bad of an experience. But as I got older, I eventually started seeing most of the stuff that she was referring to, different entities.
Ah, I gotcha. I gotcha. So that explains why she wasn't surprised. And she was like, okay, something chased you in the house. What was it? Because I know my mom, when I was younger, if that would happen, she'd be like, what the hell you talking about, boy? What the hell you talking about came in this house? Chasing you in the house. Sit your stupid ass down somewhere. And then I would have to show her. And she'd be like, oh, that is something. You know what I'm saying? That lady was crazy, dude. She was funny.
I wanted to like go out there and look to see what it was, but the fact that it jumped from tree to tree and chased me like into the house, I was like, yeah, I don't know what this is, and yeah, I don't have time to be fighting no whatever.
Now that neighborhood, what's around that neighborhood? Is it like is it super urban? Is it rural? What's the neighborhood like? Is it like swamp around? Because you guys got a lot of.
It's
I mean,
it's 183rd Street, 37th Avenue, Miami Gardens. It's an urban area right next to a highway, bunch of houses, bunch of schools, businesses. Like there's nothing over here that would indicate rural or like anywhere vegetation wise.
okay,
Like
that's
this
weird.
is just the definition of a concrete jungle in this particular area. Just all urban.
And you weren't messing with no stuff, no magic or nothing, dabbling in nothing at
No,
all.
no, no, no. Never been into anything like that.
That's weird, man. That's really really weird. It's a kind of out of place um, activity. You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't think you'll have that kind of activity around them, but you never know. It depends on what about your neighbors? Any neighbors that you knew of that was into Santeria, voodoo, hoodoo, voodoo?
Yeah, it was a lot of them around there. It's like 3 houses down, you had a voodoo priestess, and like I want to say 2 blocks over, you had a bunch of people who practiced Santeria over there. So it was a lot of stuff going on in that area as far as contacting spiritual entities.
That's the only thing. It seems like it could be something spiritual. You know, they're pretty powerful, bro. That's one thing I tell people: leave them people the hell alone. They are pretty powerful when it comes to depends on what type of stuff they use, and then the real ones, like the ones down here, they are on that level. Yeah, they're on that level, and you got to be careful dealing with them.
Hey, dog. My name's Bradley. I'm calling from North Carolina.
What's up, Bradley? What's happening? They call you Brad or they call you Bradley? What people call you by? What you go by?
Uh, I go by Brad.
That's what I figured. What's up, Brad? What's happening, baby?
Not much, my brother. Just chilling at the house. And I got a story for you, man.
Let me hear it. Lay it on me.
This is Dogman story. It was told by my dad. And I ain't never known my daddy to be no liar. Down here in North Carolina, we ain't about that. But well, I don't get on talk shows much or do anything like that. But I saw this was live, and I had to recount this story. My dad and a buddy of his were hunting on game lands called South Mountain Game Lands. You can look them up in the state of North Carolina. It's a large tract of public hunting lands.
Okay.
And they've been hunting in a spot. It was kind of off the beaten path. It was, I don't know if you're too familiar with hunting tactics, but people on public land, they'll usually go back in the woods miles and miles and miles to get away from other people. And they walk back in there. And they've been hunting there a few days and been seeing a few deer. And what day was it? I think it was like November the 20th, '68.
Okay.
And they went in for an evening hunt, and I'm trying to remember the story. He told me the best I can. I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest with you, D.
Man, ain't nothing to be nervous about. Just tell a story. I'm not judging you. Tell your story, baby. Don't sweat it. I'm not gonna bust you across your head and be like, you lying. Don't worry about it. Tell your story.
Brother. Well, they had been noticing something strange in the area. They'd be seeing less and less deer over the period of about 2 weeks of hunting pretty much the same area. And they split up. This was back before they had any radios or cell phones or anything like that, you know. And they'd split up, and one went to one ridge, and my dad, he went to a hollow next to a little creek, and they were hunting. They were seeing a few deer, and Dad told me he was sitting there about to shoot a deer, a big doe, and said all of a sudden she just looked up and just stared right past him and was looking down the holler, down the creek. And he said all of a sudden she just turned inside out and took off running. I hadn't seen him, he hadn't moved or anything like that. And he said it was getting dark anyway, so he was going to go meet up with his buddy. So he started walking out, and they started hearing something that sounded like a hyena, is what he said. And, you know, that in itself is weird, but he tried for years to tell me it could have been like something that got out of a zoo, but I think he was in denial, basically, you know. We were raised not to talk about stuff like that much. But he had met up with his buddy, and they got on this logging road, and they were walking down the logging road, and they noticed everything went quiet. You know, the cliche, everything went quiet. Dad said it was like literally stepping inside of a sound chamber, like nothing. No wind, no crickets, no night creatures, no nothing. He said they got to walking. They had about a mile left to get to the gate, and they had some people waiting for them to come pick them up. And well, what did he say? My dad was still around. I could ask him, but I'm trying my best to remember what he told me. He said they were walking down the logging road and got about a mile from the gate, and they heard something walking behind them. So, you know, they ain't scared of much. My dad hunted basically his whole life, and his buddy's the same. And he said they could excuse me, they started to smell something like rotten meat. That's what he described it to me as. And they got closer to the gate, and the people that were meeting them to pick them up flashed the headlights on the truck to signal them, like, hey, we're here. And Dad told me as soon as their lights come on, that thing behind them hollered. Like, he said it sounded kind of like a hyena laughing. And they screamed from the truck, get down, get down. And Dad and his buddy dropped down, and the people in the truck started shooting. Uh, as soon as they stopped shooting, Dad and his buddy took off hauling toward the truck. And he told me that what the people inside the truck saw was it looked. I know there's like a hyena type dog man, I believe,
Absolutely. Yeah, there is.
and the men in the truck described it as basically 6 to 7 foot tall, about 2, 3, 400 pounds maybe, and they said I would give you names, but
You don't have to get no names. We good.
but they said after they got Dad and his buddy in the truck, everything got everybody calmed down. They told them that when they shined the light, it was basically 10 yards behind them at the most, and that lends validity to how these things aren't seen and how they can be right up on you and you never know it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's amazing, man. It's
That's
amazing and terrifying.
that's a hell of a story, man. That's one hell of a story. That's a terrifying story, man. That they would be in a situation like that, and then for them to have to lay on the ground while people shoot over them. Um, that's insane. Is any of those guys still alive to this day?
One, and that's my dad's friend.
The one that was with him on the road?
Mm-hmm.
You think he'd be willing to talk?
I may be able to get him to recount his experience, but I've lost touch with him. I ain't spoke with him in, God, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, that's hard to. If you ain't talked to somebody in 15 years, be like, yeah, man, how you been? I've been good. Okay, what's been going on? Tell me about this thing that tried to kill you in the woods. That ain't gonna work, bro.
No problem, but there's some more to that story. Well, a couple months later, it had been told through the grapevine, like you were saying, small communities, word spreads, that a large creature had been killed by a farmer in the area near the South Mountain Game Lands. And when my dad was alive, he told me that a farmer had killed what the game wardens called a mutated coyote. I've watched more than a few of your episodes and your live shows, and I know that's one of the mannerisms they use. Like they'll say, "Oh, it was a bear," or "It was this or that," and that's just. But they told, from what the man told my father, they told him to bury it and threatened him basically to ruin his life if he ever
Mm-hmm.
spoke a word about it. And he told my father. Now I'm not sure what happened after that. If they found out what he said, I would assume not. But I don't know, man. He might have had daggum FBI roll up in his front door, knocking on the door. Who knows?
I appreciate
That's
it.
another reason I came to you, because you're trustworthy. You're a man of your word. You're a man of God. You're a man of your word, and I've got the utmost respect for you, DW.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
See if you can put some input on this. I'm working in the woods on a job, and this guy had a horse. Now, this horse was deceased, no doubt, when he found it. There wasn't no sign of no struggle, but an eyeball was missing, around his nose was chewed out, and his private parts was missing. Now, he'd be dragging this thing over the hill, and no buzzards and no coyote or no bear touched this thing for 2 weeks. What would be your input on what took it out?
And so his eyeball was missing or it was out?
There was one eyeball missing, around his mouth was chewed off, and its private parts was missing, and no buzzard, no bear, or no coyote touched this thing for 2 weeks.
Where is this at? You can give me a general.
Southeast Ohio, Racine, Ohio. It's Southeast Ohio, Meigs County High. I just wondered your input on that. What kind of took it out or whatever. It was a strange occurrence. Meigs County.
Makes, M-A-K-E-S?
Meigs, the big green county. Always noted for herb years ago.
Because you touched on something that, honestly, you're saying something that makes me think it's Dogman. And you're touching on something that I don't ever really get into on stories.
Well, like I said, I just can't. Well, I work timber and I worked in the woods. I don't know whether to look over my shoulder or up in the sky or what you think maybe happened to this animal.
Anything else like that happen in that area?
Well, not that I know of, but people around here, the guy I'm working on, he was wanting to tell me a story, and it took him like 3 times to put it out there, and he looked at me kind of weird. He didn't want to tell me. You see what I'm saying? In this area I'm working in, there's definitely caves and overhangs and several places they could, animals can hang out in. But
In several cases where dogs, huge dogs, we're talking about massives, not Rottweilers, but massives, and also Doberman pinchers, where people have had active dogman encounters where their dogs went back and forth with, especially the massives, the bull mastiffs went back and forth with dogmen. For some reason, they would slash the dog's throat and then rip the dog's private parts out. And that's the only thing that would make me think that it could be Dogman, is the attack in the private parts. Now, I'll tell you what may be significant and what could provoke something like that. What happened to this guy's massive. He took his dog out into the woods, and his dog started urinating on like different trees. Like it went from tree to tree to tree to tree. It went like 4 different trees, just spraying the trees. And after that is when the dog man came back to his house. And after that, coming back to his house is when the dog man and his bull mastiff had it out. They had this huge back and forth fight. And then a couple of days later, he found his dog dead with his private parts torn out. So I can only speculate that could be it. I will tell you this. That's in an area where what I like to call the downside of the loop. So where they come from up the border, Louisiana, Texas, over into Arkansas to the border of Arkansas and Missouri and work all the way across, and then or they work up the border of Louisiana, Texas, across the border of Louisiana and Arkansas, then up Mississippi in through Tennessee up to the Appalachian Trail, and then work their way back down. And you guys are at the very top of that loop where they work their way back down. You're literally at the top of that loop. So if you look at Ellenboro, there were encounters in Ellenboro, McFarland, Palestine, and one of them is close to the river. I think it's Portland, which is right on the Ohio. Yeah, Portland, right on the Ohio River.
That's 12 miles above me, 10 miles. Yeah, really.
Yeah. So that's a part of the loop. If you go look at my map, you'll see where there's a loop where they loop back around.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've seen your map. Yeah, and it looked like we was at the edge of it. But I'm in the woods all the time. I don't really want to actually run into one, but it's weird I haven't seen one.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe it's a great thing you haven't seen one. I mean, if
exactly, yeah. I'm not wanting to naturally encounter one, but yeah. But I do work in the woods all the time, and like our wildlife is really depleting, and the deer is like living in people's yards. I mean, you drive up the road, you'll see 40, 50 deer. And years ago, when I went deer hunting 20 years ago, you'd have to go back literally on the back 40 to find a deer, and they're They're along the road and beside people's homes.
Let me ask you this: how far is that from this area where you guys found this chewed up horse? How far is that activity with the deers being bunched up, like in a place like where they're looking for safety? How far is that from this location where you had this encounter, or they found this dead horse?
Well, I'm working 5 miles from the house, and on the way to work, I'll go to work anywhere from 4 o'clock to 5:30 in the morning to run loads, but you'll see 15, 20 deer easily, if not double that. I mean, on the edge of the road and literally in people's yards.
So it's about 5 miles from where you work.
Yeah.
And how long has that activity been going on? The deer activity.
Oh, for a long, long while. I mean, I ask people all the time. I said, we have coyote out to yin yang, and years ago they used to yelp and carry on, and the only time you hear them hollering anymore is when they make a kill, when they surround it. But you don't hear them things hollering or anything anymore, yelping like they used to.
Yeah, you guys sound like you have something in that area right now. But when you say for a long time, are we talking about a month, 2 months, 3 months?
Oh, no, well over a year or a couple of years. These deer are literally out of the woods. They're not living in the woods. They're like in people's yards.
No, see, now, so then I'm wrong on that, because what I'm talking about is temporary activity. It's not like, it's not, that shouldn't be going on for a year. That might be something else. That may be attributed to something else. I don't know what it could be. But we're talking about when you deal with dogmen in a specific area, you'll see a couple of things happen. You'll see where there's a massive amount of deer, right? And they are seeking safety, and it's like for maybe a 20 or 30-day period. You just see this massive, abnormal amount of deers, and then all of a sudden they're all gone, and that's because they're in the process of being herded as these dogmen migrate. So right now it's prime migration season, because we're going into, well, actually we're getting towards the tail end, because we're about to start getting cold fronts, but they should be moving back down south. So it would make sense if you told me, hey, these deers were at one point in time 3 months ago, we had deers everywhere in people's yards, and now I can't find a deer. That would make more sense. But it's got to be something else going on. But still, the activity with the horse sounds like you could attribute it to a dog man. I would have to see a picture of the horse and know a little bit more about it. But if I'm speculating, I would say that horse pissed in the wrong place and pissed off the wrong thing.
There was like 4 other horses in there with it. There's like 5 or 6 in the field at the time. There's always, it wasn't just one horse in this field.
And so the rest of the horses didn't flee, they didn't run, they didn't go anywhere. They were all back in the field when they found the dead horse?
Well, the dead horse was clear back at the end of the field, and these horses were out near the road, the rest of them. I mean, they weren't back there around this horse, and they didn't go around it either.
That sounds like dogman activity, man. Honestly, it does. It sounds like it.
Hey, man, I appreciate it.
Do wolves?
Appreciate you big time. One more question before I get off.
Let me ask you this.
How many...
are you guys known to have wolves in that area as well?
No, we don't have wolves, but DNR, last couple of years, have been trying to introduce them. Now, we are overrun with bobcat, but I'm sure a bobcat wouldn't took this horse out.
No, hell no. So the guts were still intact. Was the throat ripped out?
No, had an eyeball missing. Around his nose was chewed off, and its genitalia was gone. His private parts was ate out. That was it. Wasn't no guts opened up or nothing. And no buzzards, no coyote, and we do have black bear around here, a few in that neighborhood, and nothing touched it for 2 weeks.
Oh, so it just sat there, nothing fed on it either. Okay, yeah, that's crazy.
I got one more question before I leave you alone, and like Dogman, when they have young, do they have like a litter like dogs, or 1 or 2, or what's up with that?
I have no clue. I have yet to find a credible source to give me that information. That's why you never hear me speculate on it. You never hear me talk about it, because I have absolutely no clue. Honestly, I've yet to get. I've had people call me and tell me crazy stuff, like they found a litter of dogmen, and then when you go through and sort of ask them questions, you realize they're like ape crazy. You know what I'm saying? But I have absolutely no clue. I don't want to speculate and give you anything incorrect. And say anything that would be wrong, but I have no clue whatsoever. No claw marks on the body though, or nothing like that. No clear sign where it
No,
was taken down.
no. I mean, there wasn't no signs of struggle. This horse didn't have no paw marks on the ground. It looked like whatever took it out. Just I don't know whether it strangled it or what, but it was on the ground like it just laid down and died. But why would the eyeball be missing? The snout, nose, unless it suffocated it. Whatever took it out. I don't know.
What we was the was it the mouth and nose eaten off, or was it like it just was chomped on and like bit down on, but was it gone? Like it was like completely taken off, or was it
Yeah, it was
mangled?
gone.
It was gone.
No, it was gone. The skin part of it, it was just like skull sticking out there, and an eyeball missing, and his private parts were gone.
If you're worried about it in the woods, man, just be aware of your surroundings and be aware of how the woods are reacting to you being there. Your body will tell you when one of these things are around. Your body will tell you. But my body told me for sure. Like I knew something was there. It was no doubt. It wasn't like, oh, maybe there's something else. No, I knew. You know what I'm saying? So your body will tell you something is there.
But I definitely pack when I'm even working. I got something on me. But people talk about the sound of the woods, quiet and stuff. But the woods in general are eerie anymore. You don't really hear that many sounds. I mean, the woods used to be live with wildlife, birds, squirrels. Stuff. You don't hear anything. It's like your ears is ringing, trying to hear something. Yeah.
And that's why you're working. Has anybody else noticed that as well?
Well, it's hard to find any workers. Only people really doing hard labor anymore is prostitutes. Sorry for saying that, but that's the truth. I work by myself. I work timber, and nobody will work, man. Well, listen, man, I'm going to get off here so somebody else get in there, but I wanted to run that by you, just see what your input would be. Okay, man, appreciate you. Thank you.
No problem. Good talking to you.
All right. I'm gonna give you a rundown, a quick of my past experience. A few years ago, I used to work for Home Depot. I live in Fiddlesburg, New Jersey. I work up in Home Depot in Totowa, New Jersey. So that's an hour and a half drive. I used to work the morning shift from 5 a.m. to 1:30.
Okay.
So I would leave my house like around 3 o'clock to get to work. I'll take 78 East. So one particular day, I was on my way to work and stuff like that, and I was driving a Chrysler Sebring at the time, a 2010 white Chrysler Sebring. I was on 78 in the fast lane doing about like 75, 80, and there was a pickup truck up ahead of me, and the pickup truck had came to a complete stop, which caused me to swerve into the middle lane and hit my brakes as well. And as I did that, it's like I clipped what I thought was a Coyote at the time. So I had came to a complete stop. The pickup truck was like maybe about 15 feet ahead of me, or about 10, 15 feet ahead of me. He also came to a complete stop. So I'm looking to see like, what did I hit and if it was okay. And it already made its way to the shoulder, like into the, it dips down. So I'm looking, I rolled my window down to see like if the animal was okay and stuff like that. So it turns around and then steps foot back on the pavement and the pickup truck peels out. So I did the same and stuff like that. I went to work. Nothing of it. I came home. And, no issues, nothing. So like a few days later, like I start hearing like strange occurrences because I stay up late on like certain nights. So I heard certain occurrences like happening around my kitchen and stuff like that. I think nothing over like the branches because I have trees in the backyard. So I think it's the branches hitting the window and stuff like that. So one particular night, I was in the kitchen doing the dishes. So it was like maybe around 11 o'clock at night. And I was doing the dishes, and I happened to look out the window, and I see something looking back at me. which like I dropped the dishes. I was scared. I damn near passed out. So I started like when I used to go to work because I had to be to work at 5 o'clock. I'm from Jersey, so I don't own guns. Though the closest thing I have for a weapon is like one of those sword type things, knives and stuff like that. Not knowing what I was dealing with, so I pretty much used to carry that with me. Before I leave out the house, I look out the window. I look out all the windows. I make sure my car is unlocked, and I used to run to my car. So I did this for a couple of days because prior to that, the last time when I seen what I seen in the window, all the knocking and tapping had stopped, but I was still scared because I didn't know what I saw. So one night I was running late and stuff like that. I think I was running like maybe 15, 20 minutes late. So I didn't take a lunch. I just grabbed my keys and I ran. And I left the door, locked the door and stuff like that. And I was unarmed. I didn't have not that a knife or a sword or whatever would have done anything. So as I was headed to my car, I felt like there was something off. So when I turned around, I saw this thing that I hit a few days ago, like standing by like 15 feet away from me. So I'm looking at it and I'm looking at my car, knowing it's standing between me and my house, and my car was still away, about at least about 20 feet away from me. So I thought that maybe I could run to my car, but by the time I opened the door, to be on top of me. So then it did something that I never thought it would do. This bastard stood up on his back legs. Sorry. Yeah, so it stood up on his back legs. And then it took a couple steps forward. And I'm like, I literally freaking pissed my pants looking at this thing. It was dark, shaggy brown. I think it was about a little over 7 feet tall. So I'm standing there waiting to die and stuff like that. So as this thing was freaking staring at me and stuff like that, there was my neighborhood, we have patrol cars that come around a few nights out of the week and stuff like that. So my patrol car was actually coming up around this time, and it passed my house. The lights briefly hit me and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, he's gonna stop. So I'm like, no, he kept going. And then he went to the end of my block, which was maybe about 30 yards away. And then he made a U-turn. And he came back, and his spotlight hit the Dogman or whatever this thing was. It looked at me, it looked at it took off into my backyard. Because the Delaware River and the woods are about 5 miles to the left of my house towards the backyard. And there's houses around my house and stuff like that. So I didn't end up going to work today. I didn't end up going to work that day. And I was out for a couple of days and stuff like that. So the police came, asked me am I okay? What the hell was that? And I didn't answer. I guess I was in shock and stuff like that. So the ambulance came, took me to the hospital, and I was there for about a day or so. And then he wrote the report and stuff like that. So a couple of days later, some people had showed up to my house. I didn't know who they were, so it was we have a warrant to search your house. So they came to my house. They searched my house. They I have a DVR and stuff like that up my driveway. So they took my DVR. So, but before they did that, something told me to back it up on a flash drive. I didn't really get to look at it, but I knew that there was something on a flash drive. And as I was telling Jeff this, that I was getting ready to send it to him, I didn't know that I was being monitored. So I was driving. I don't remember where I was going, but I knew I got pulled over. It didn't look like a cop car. It was all blacked out, regular car. So they arrested me and stuff like that. And it was like, yo, you know what you have? They wanted what I had. So I ended up telling them where it was. And then after that, I didn't have no more experience until like maybe a few months later. I had bought myself a rock wallet, and I was I went to the state park up in PA because PA is like literally like 5 minutes away from my house. So I took my dog for a walk and stuff like that, and then I was getting that eerie feeling that I was being watched and my dog was going bonkers. So long story short, something comes out of the wood. I'm thinking it's the same thing that I saw months back, but it wasn't. It was like a smaller one, maybe about my height. I'm 6'2". So they bluff charged me. I didn't run because I already like there's no point in running because the amount of speed that it picked up with its bluff charge, I knew it was going to catch me, and it stopped maybe short of like 20, 25 feet of me, growled at me, and then took off into the woods. And then I took my dog and I ran. And we got out of there, so I didn't go back to the park. I changed my schedule. Instead of working 3 in the morning, I work overnight now, just to like try to avoid these things. It got so bad that I ended up switching jobs. I no longer had worked for Home Depot. I had switched to Uline up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and then that's when I had my other encounter. I was it was back I think last year when we had that really, really bad snowstorm. And the way how my job is, they don't care whether it's like 4 or 5 feet of snow, you still have to come in. So I left a couple hours early just to try to get in early, and my car had broke down and had got stuck. So I called roadside service. They said it was going to be a while for them to get to me. So I was sitting in my car just playing, at the time, playing Candy Crush. And then, like, I just had that strange feeling that something was off. And up in the distance, I saw these glowing eyes looking at me. And then it came up to the window, and it pulled on my door handle. So I started blowing my horn. And just got mad and it roared, or growled, whatever you want to call this thing. So I stood there for like another 10, 15 seconds, and then took off. The roadside service that showed up like maybe about half an hour after. They saw the like footprints and said, "What the hell happened?" I said, "I don't know. It was a coyote or something." So when I went to work, I got there a few hours late, and pretty much I was able to do my job to the best of my ability. So I was ended up having to be let go. So fast forward to my most recent supposed encounter. I work at a another company up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I work for the Purina company, the pet food store. It's up off Pope Road. So I pretty much deal with dog food and cat food and things like that. So I have the task at around 1 o'clock in the morning to empty out all the damages into the freaking dumpster and stuff like that. It's about at least about hundreds to 1,000 pounds of like dog food and cat food. So one of the days, one night I was doing my regular routine, and it seemed like I was driving a forklift because I'm a forklift driver, and it seemed like something was like going around in the freaking dumpster. So I turned my lights on it, and then what it was, it jumped out, looked at me, and then took off. I didn't see it clearly. It was a ways away, but I knew what it was. And it's happened a few nights. I haven't seen it in a few days, though, but every so often it shows up at my job. So that's pretty much what I'm dealing with right now.
That's some wild right there. Or you let me ask you a question before I start going into. I want to ask your permission before I ask this set of questions because I can hear in your voice that you're shook. Are you okay with me going through the process of these questions with you right now? Do you want me to talk to you more in private? Because I can hear in your voice that you up right now.
Um, we can go through it.
You sure? Because
Yeah.
because you 100% sure. I'm gonna ask you one more time.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure.
Walk me through this. So you're in that kitchen, right?
Yeah.
What was the color of the dish that you were washing? Do you remember?
Yes, it was blue.
All right. So me and you standing at the kitchen. We're in the sink. There's a window in front of us. We're washing the blue dish. What made you look up out of the window?
I had the feeling that something was looking at me. You
So
know
you
how
had
you
that.
just like,
You know
you know
when
how you
something's
just
looking
like,
at you.
yeah, you just, something's like, all right, yeah, something's looking at you. So I wasn't expecting to see anything, really. But
All right.
I
Now
thought
do
it
me a
was more than
favor.
that word.
Close
Yeah.
your eyes right now. Close your eyes. And we looking at the blue dish. We looking at the sink. There's a lip on the sink where the water comes out of the faucet. Your eyes are
Yeah.
raising up to the window. What did you see? Keep your eyes closed and describe it. What did you see?
I seen probably from the chest up, some, I won't even say it was chest out. I noticed more the eyes because it was extremely dark outside because it was nighttime. But from the shadow of the lights that was inside, as my eyes adjusted to it, I saw it. The eyes is the first thing that I noticed.
And
It
what
was
did they
like
look like?
a yellowish eyes with amber in it. Yellow. It's not quite amber, but it's in between.
And what did the pupils look like?
Let me see. It was, I don't know how to say. It's like a ball. Let me see. Just give me a second. I would say it had like it wasn't all it wasn't all orange or amber. It had like a ring of black to it.
So we talk about eyes with the amber solid color with white on the outside, amber, then with that black ring on the inside or a black dot.
Black dot. I didn't see no white in his eyes.
So it was all yellow with a black dot.
Yeah. I didn't see the white.
Okay. You remember anything else? You remember a snout? You remember?
No, I didn't see the smell. It's more like a shadow. It looked like something that wasn't supposed to be there. Because, like, when I went outside on my backyard, when I lucky had the courage to go in my backyard the next day, my kitchen, it's the top of my kitchen window. Standing outside is like, give or take, maybe 8, almost 9 feet from the floor. And this thing, when it was there, it was almost eye level with me.
Yeah, you and I are standing in the kitchen, and that means your eye. If you're in the kitchen, you're right at the. Normally, you're right at where the window locks. You know that little lock latch. That's about half of the window right there. Was it above that latch, or was it below the eye level? Was it above the latch where you slide the window up and you open it? There's a little metal latch. Was it above that or below it?
It was above it.
That's
Slightly above
fucking
it.
creepy. That is creepy. And that was the only thing that happened around the house outside of
Yeah.
the little noises that you were hearing afterwards. So that was your first initial encounter. Um, so now we're going on to the road where you're in where they work and you hit something. I'll tell you what's going on with it. When you hit it, I don't know if If I was you, I would have apologized when I saw it outside. Yo, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. I would have apologized. I'm telling you, I'd have been like, yo, I'm sorry, bro. Um, so that car, that truck that was in the accident, which you remember the color of it? What color was
Yeah,
it?
it was gray. It was a gray Ford pickup truck. I think it was a F-150, if I'm not mistaken.
And this was early in the morning, so sun hadn't risen yet.
And I
Um,
was around 3 o'clock in the morning. I leave my house at 3 o'clock in the morning. For me to get to 78 takes about 7 minutes. So it roughly happened around 3:09 or 3:10 because I was on the 78 for at least a couple minutes before um, I ran into this thing for the pickup speed and then having to stop.
you remember anything about that driver other than him peeling off?
Yes. At the time, like the driver, his pickup truck was a few feet in front of me. So it was at an angle. I was able to see him. He had a black baseball cap and he was Caucasian. And his eyes was like wide as saucers. So I'm like, at that time, I was like, what was going on? And I was like, what did I hit? Because this thing was so freaking flat. It's so freaking fast. Like, yo, the speed, even though I clipped it, with the speed, the muzzle I saw, I'm thinking it was a freaking, like a coyote or bear or something. But I didn't realize what it was until when it freaking turned around and it looked. And then that's when I heard the freaking pickup truck just peel off. And then I did the same. But my thing is, yo, I work an hour and a half away. I went to work that day, man. If anything, it should have tracked me at work. How did it know? I,
Let me ask you this question: how far was the location of that hour and a half? Don't mean nothing, dog. Like that, honestly, I don't. How far was the from your house to where that accident was? How far had you traveled from your house to that spot?
less than 10 miles, maybe about 6, 7 miles.
There's your answer to why you were having the experience at your house. Your current job, how far is that from where you live?
My current job is about it's it's a 35-minute drive, so what, 20 something miles, 28 miles.
There's your answer to why it's at your current job. So when you were at Home Depot, though, you weren't having anything at Home Depot itself, right?
No,
Um, yeah, that's up, dog. That's all the way up. And I'm gonna tell you like this. I believe you 100% because I've heard this tonality before. I just wish there was something I could do to help you. I'm not gonna get into that other with the flash drive, the visitation. That's type that you really shouldn't rehash that like publicly, just for future reference. That's that you shouldn't
yeah,
rehash that publicly. People don't Those type of people don't really like when you rehash that. I understand that. I'm not gonna put you back through that. I started to cut you off, but and tell you we need to talk about that in private. But what I will say is this: um, it got your scent off your vehicle, and unfortunately, you had the unfortunate occurrence of injuring one of these things, and they're very, very vengeful when you do that. Um, I'm surprised nothing more has happened than came to your house to pay you a visit because you hit it. I'm surprised nothing more has happened. Has anybody else in the house seen anything?
nobody's seen it though. But I did tell my wife that I did encounter something strange. I didn't give her the whole detail because I work overnight and for her to be by herself. But since then, I've purchased quite a few guns. I have one in the bedroom with her. I have one in pretty much almost every room that I have. So
And
I'm
how's
pretty
you
much sure
guys'
that I would use it.
relationship doing right now? You guys are doing okay as a couple?
Yeah, actually, tomorrow's her birthday.
That's good.
So,
That's good.
yeah.
So you're strong enough not to let it affect the family. That's good. That's a good thing. That's a damn good thing. You sound like a strong dude. Sound like you can deal with it, but